Hey, it's Mike Brennan, and we're got a special show today. It's kind of spur of the moment. It was because it happened real quickly, as most people, if they don't know by now, I'd be surprised. But President Trump issued a series of tariffs last Thursday, and it the auto industry, particularly in Michigan, we think is going to be really hammered by this. But Matt and I are just reporters, so we're bringing in the pros from Dover, starting with Sean Tucker, who covers the automotive industry for Kelly Blue Book. Um, and so, what is your take on? Well, again, we don't know. That's the part that Wall Street's going crazy with is they don't know how long it's going to last, or what the end game is. But and so we can't really go into that, but we can go into what the initial impact is on car prices and truck and light truck prices. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, right now, everybody's holding their breath. We've seen reactions from some of the really small manufacturers like Ineos have already gone ahead and raised prices. A couple of them have said that they're not for a set period of time. Hyundai just Friday guaranteed pricing through June 2nd. So I've seen reactions all across the board because nobody entirely knows how long this is going to last or what it will really mean.
Yeah, it's crazy, Matt.
All right, I'm just curious because I know I drive a Ford Bronco Sport. That final assembly point for that is in Mexico, but some of the parts are in Canada and some of the parts are from the U.S. And God knows how many times back and forth across those three borders they go.
Right.
How is all this going to be figured out for cars manufactured in the modern North American supply chain?
So there's two different sets of tariffs that you need to worry about right now. What kicked on April 3rd affects cars that come into the country from outside, built entirely outside, and does not affect Canada and Mexico. What kicks in on May 3rd, or a little earlier, depending on when the Commerce Department writes the rules, is a 25% tariff on parts. And that's going to affect those cars. That's going to affect even the cars made here. The complication there is they want to tax the non-US parts, and it can be awfully hard to even figure out what constitutes a non-US part. So they're in the process of writing the rules right now, and I don't envy them.
Yeah, one would think they'd want the rules written before before they make the announcement, but yeah, who knows? Um, I guess at this point we really don't know because I know there's a lot of Stellantis product that is, the engines are from Mexico, the seats are from Lear in Southfield, the final assembly point is in, I don't know, Windsor, Oshawa, Ontario, someplace like that. So
Right.
so yeah, we don't yet know what's going to happen to those kinds of vehicles,
And
right?
to further complicate that, parts are made of parts. So you've got a wiring harness made in America, shipped to Mexico and built into a seat motor, then shipped back to be built into a seat, then shipped across another border to be put into a car, and then shipped back across the border. What's the US part? It's going to be a nightmare to figure
Yeah, that again, I don't know how well these are thought through, but immediately, I mean, are we going to begin to see prices hike in April, or is it going to take a little time, or what do you think?
It's gonna take a little time. Every dealership right now already has a supply of cars on the lot that it imported at pre-tariff prices, and each automaker has a different supply. So, like Toyota right now is down to barely more than a month. So your Toyota dealer, your local Toyota dealer knows when he sells you a car, he's gonna have to pay a lot more for the one that takes its place, and that's gonna happen in a month. Whereas some of the Dodge dealers have north of 140 days. So that same calculation for them is 3 months away.
Could you tell if a lot of the auto dealers were buying more cars than usual in March because they anticipated that these tariffs were coming? Did you see a big surge?
Some of the dealers did, and some of the automakers imported more and are holding them in various holding facilities so that they can ship them out to dealers later. So, sure, yeah, we saw some of them try to get as much into the country as they could at pre tariff prices.
Because typically the automakers try to have what a 70, 80, 90-day supply of cars, because never know what's going to happen, right? So and
Right.
uh,
And we saw it before the tariffs were announced, it varied from 37 to 144. So they're not all on target, but yeah, the traditional target's right around 75.
okay, Matt.
So I'm also wondering about how big brand loyalty is going to play into all this, and how big the quality differences are going to play into all this. I know there used to be a big gap between Japanese manufactured cars and North American, manufactured cars in quality.
Mhm.
That quality gap has lessened and in some cases disappeared. I know I was really surprised a couple of years ago to see Jeep number one in initial quality when it used to be, you drove a Jeep off the lot and things immediately started falling off them. That's definitely not the case anymore.
Right.
Um, but how big a deal? I mean, is this if suddenly the price of a Toyota goes up $5,000, are people actually going to look at something else instead, or is brand loyalty going to, pardon the expression, trump everything else?
Those are very good questions nobody knows the answer to right now. I
Yeah.
can tell you that some of the Asian automakers that have really good quality reputations are trying to protect their pricing as best they can right now. But the Toyota and Honda are the two with the shortest supply, so they have a really hard time. Hyundai on Friday said, "We guarantee all pricing through June 2nd." So they're not going to raise prices through at least June 2nd. Toyota said something to the effect of, "We guarantee pricing for now."
Okay.
For now, but what does that mean, right?
Right.
Until
Exactly.
that
It means until we don't, right?
75-day supply goes away, and then we're gonna zing
Right.
you, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Exactly.
um, then, so we're in pretty good shape right now. Consumers shouldn't be seeing an increase in price, you don't think? Unless the car, I mean, it's kind of like oil prices. Seems like when there's some issue in the Middle East, suddenly the next day oil prices at our gas stations are way up. But that oil isn't going to get here for 6 weeks, so what's the big deal, right? So
Yeah,
is it?
and so
Go ahead.
we are seeing a few price increases right away. I wouldn't say it's not happening at all yet. I think dealer by dealer, some of them it's going to take a little more time, but we have seen some of them go up immediately. We've also seen automakers in some cases stop importing certain cars. It's a small number right now, but Infinity said we're not going to import the QX50 or the QX55 anymore. It's not worth it. So we started seeing decisions like that within 48 hours of the announcement.
Okay, Matt.
Wow. I mean, where are auto sales headed this year? What's the current prediction? What was it a couple months ago?
Well, a couple months ago, we were looking at over 16 million for the year, and we're probably revising that down to at least 15.6. What we think is going to happen is in the short run, you're going to see a little bit of a spike as people rush out to buy those cars that are here at pre-tariff prices. And then, assuming these tariffs hold on, you'll start to see sales really drop in a month or two.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. Although it's kind of off topic, I noticed Stellantis already is laying people off. I don't know. I was sort of scanning over the weekend. I didn't see any other auto dealers announcing. Was there anybody besides Stellantis?
I haven't seen layoffs from anyone else yet.
Okay.
Okay, if that does happen, how long do you think it'll take?
It's going to differ based on the impact at each individual brand. It's a little bit different for each one. Some of them are affected by that 25% tariff almost immediately, particularly the ones coming in from Europe. Some of them, it's not really going to kick in until the parts tariff hits. So it's going to be a rolling target at all times.
Hmm, wow.
Do you? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I'm going to ask you if the current course stays as it is. That's the only thing we can assume at this point.
Mhm.
Within a few months, I've seen numbers all over the board, 3,000 to 15,000 more, depending, of course, on the price of the vehicle. I mean, some of
Right.
those trucks, like they're just amazingly $80,000 trucks. Uh,
Mhm.
but what do you guys think? Do you think that those are accurate numbers, anywhere between 3 and 15, depending on the ultimate price of the vehicle?
It's really hard to say. You see a lot of trackers right now that are trying to predict the price of each individual vehicle, and automakers don't necessarily think like that. Ford could very well look at their lineup and say, Maverick buyers cannot afford a 25% increase, but F 150 buyers can. So we're going to raise the F 150 price in order to pay the import duty on Mavericks. It's not as simple as each model goes up by 25%.
Hmm, okay. Yeah, that's the thing. Even the U.S. automakers who pretty much have abandoned making small cars, right? They're still making small SUVs, but most of them are imported.
Yeah. In fact, the ones that, if this drags on long enough, we will see cars canceled. And the ones that we think are most likely to be canceled are the most inexpensive cars. A lot of those tend to come in from South Korea. They're not going to get the benefit of those Canada and Mexico tariff breaks. So something like the Chevy Trax, it's almost a frustration in a way because they canceled a lot of cheap cars. And over the last year, we've seen some really impressive ones start back up again. The Trax is a really good looking car. And for the cheapest thing on the Chevy lot, I'm pretty impressed with it. But it
Yeah.
comes from South Korea. They could very well say there's just no profitable way to do this anymore.
Hmm. So, this takes us back to a couple of years ago when we thought it was the future. What does this do to EV sales?
Um, Hard to say. Those are some of the more expensive cars on the market. But under the Biden administration, a lot of those factories were already moving here because that $7,500 tax break requires that a certain percentage of the car be made in North America, and the percentage goes up every year. So, like Hyundai had built a huge EV factory in Georgia, and so had Kia, and those things may end up actually getting around the tariffs because they're built here, depending on where some of the parts come from. So, God, I'm saying it's hard to say a lot, but it's still hard to say.
How about all the battery plants? I know there was a big move toward battery and battery component sourcing here domestically too.
Right. Very similar in that a lot of that production is moving here and maybe not in time to actually escape this.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, right now we're in such an early point of this thing, and since we don't know what the ultimate end game is, everybody's confused. And I just know I sold all my stocks Thursday morning because I could see it was going to get ugly real fast. So I just put it
Uh-huh.
into cash, and
Smartest man in America.
yeah, well, I mean, I was like 9 o'clock. I saw the market crashing, and I thought this isn't going to end anytime soon. So,
Mm.
a lot of other people are doing the same thing, or they're just riding the storm out. It's not a loss unless you sell it. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, it's just crazy times, and it's. I know everyone's scratching their head trying to sort this out. Is there anything you could say that might be comforting to auto vehicle buyers? I mean, at all, other than I guess it's going to take a while for this to happen, or what?
Yeah. I try to give everybody the same advice that I have always given, regardless of tariff or no tariff, which is that you don't need to rush a $50,000 decision. I wouldn't want to see anybody go out and buy a new car because of a news story right now. Things are just too unpredictable for that. Also, keep in mind that the way the auto industry fixes the price of a car is just incredibly complicated. The automaker often sells it to a distributor who then sells it to a dealer who then sells it to you. But there are multiple loans in that process where the dealer doesn't outright buy the car. They take out a loan to buy the car, and the company they're taking the loan from is a bank owned by the automaker. And you get the picture. It's really complicated. And one thing that means is if everybody along that chain says, well, I'll absorb 1% of this. Then by the time it reaches you, it's a lot less severe than it looks.
Okay, Matt.
So don't panic, I guess. Huh? Maybe
Yeah,
at least not yet.
right.
Okay, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Always good advice.
All right, take us out, Matt.
All right, thanks so much for being with us today. He is Sean Tucker. He is lead editor at Kelly Blue Book. We'll be back.